A lot of buzz about Pat Buchanan's new book, Nixon's White House Wars, the battles that made and broke a president and divided America forever. He's been a senior advisor to 3 American presidents. He's been a candidate for president twice, and was confidant and assistant to Richard Nixon from 1966 through 1974. He's been through some battles before, so we got to find out how that battle compares to the battles that we're in the middle of right now. Mr. Buchanan, sir, welcome back. How you been?
Delighted. Good to talk with you, Mike.
Congratulations on the book. I read a big review in the New York Times Sunday. I think did Joe Klein review your book?
I did, and I felt it was a very nice review. It certainly got excellent play.
It wasn't bad,
given the source.
Considering where it was coming from. Now, of course, he sort of dismissed you as the extremist that many have claimed you are over the years. That's nothing new to you, but you're the real kind of the attack dog and the kind of the extremist. But it really seemed to be a fairly even-handed, review on the front page of the book section of the New York Times. There's a lot of interest in this book and in your story because of what Donald Trump is going through today. It's almost impossible, even though we keep hearing over and over again, this is no Watergate, there's not even any evidence of a crime. Nonetheless, it feels sort of like from a Nixon era, doesn't it?
Well, Mike, I think you hit the nail on the head. There is no crime. And let's take the controversial decision to fire FBI Director Comey. Now, Comey said, look, the president had a perfect right to fire me. There's no crime here. The president's ticked off at him. But they compare that with the Saturday Night Massacre, which came after many Watergate folks were already convicted and in prison. The whole White House had been decapitated. And the decision then in the Saturday Night Massacre, when I was with Nixon right in the Oval Office, he was forced by circumstances to fire the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General and the independent counsel, Archibald Cox, and shut down that investigative function they were carrying out. And there was a huge firestorm, and there were 20 resolutions of impeachment in the House the next Tuesday. I mean, to compare the firing of Comey with that is the substance isn't there, but I agree with you. The atmosphere in this city, I mean, it's the bloodlust, the desire to bring down Trump is every bit as great as it was to bring down Nixon.
And I want to go back, if you don't mind, because history can teach us something. But when you were in the middle of Watergate with President Nixon, you urged the president to fire Archibald Cox, right?
Yes, he had to. Let me tell you the situation. For one thing, is we're in the middle of the Yom Kippur War. Nixon had sent this huge airlift to save Israel, which was retreating across the Sinai, losing thousands of troops. Mm-hmm. And so Nixon launched this airlift. The Soviets moved ships with nuclear weapons through the Dardanelles, and their airborne divisions were headed for their airfields. And Nixon had sent Kissinger to Moscow to negotiate a truce and stop the war. And here you got his Attorney General suddenly refusing an order to fire Cox. Mm-hmm. So you can't back down. Well, he told me I can't back down.
Yeah, but history.
But me back down before my own Attorney General. I got to fire him.
But like you said, history says that when Archibald Cox was fired, that's what sort of led to all the articles of impeachment, and that was the end for Richard Nixon, right?
Well, it was the end. I think that was October, so he resigned in the next August. So it was 10 more months. But you're right, Mike, and that makes the point. I mean, Watergate was a matter that endured for more than 2 years, and we knew there was a crime the morning after the break-in.
Right, and right.
We knew in about a couple of days that Hunt and Liddy, who had worked in the White House and Plummer's operation, were involved. And so these guys were on the way to prison after 6 months, and the whole thing lasted almost 2 more years.
But there are reporters old enough to remember that whole chapter, and I think they instinctively went into Watergate mode when President Trump understandably fired Comey, and everybody wanted him gone. Suddenly he's Mother Teresa to the left, but nobody seemed to like the job that James Comey was doing from either side. But once he fired him, I think a lot of reporters went into that Watergate mode and said, oh, here we go. James Comey is the 2017 equivalent of Archibald Cox.
Oh, yeah. And, well, frankly, there are some similarities in terms of their own self-regard. But, but you're exactly right. The sense that the reporters now, they've all read this and they think now Woodward and Bernstein are the greatest journalists in history, and that was the greatest moment in journalism, and all of a sudden, hey, it's our turn. Pulitzer Prizes are beckoning. We're getting on television and all of these things, and it's the mood of it all. And again, if after 10 months of investigation, however, the FBI has not turned up any collusion between Donald Trump and Putin or his campaign and the Soviet KGB to steal poor Modesta's emails and send them over to WikiLeaks. Right.
I can't wait to get your book, by the way, Nixon's White House Wars. I can't wait to read about his trip to China. And you, of course, were a key part, a very, very important part of this chapter of our nation's history. Let's bring it back to the future or the present. I saw an interview that you gave to the Daily Caller the other day, and the headline was, how long can we sustain this? So I want to ask you about that, because you're verbalizing what many of us are thinking. Just how long can we have 2, 3, 4 news media explosions a day, putting the White House on defense? It seems to obscure his agenda and the ability to put forth, what he wants to do for the country. How does this get resolved? What has to happen, Pat?
Well, this is the question I ask. Trump's been in office just about exactly 4 months, January 20th to May 20th, which means he's got 44 months to go. How do you handle the intensity of conflict and animosity on all sides and back and forth hatred against Trump and people backing Trump and denouncing the media? And how do you handle that for 44 months without something happening, which we know not? It's hard, as I said, it is hard for me to believe the country can sustain this kind of intensity in its capital city and inside its government and within its central national politics that long without something giving way.
Well, you've been in a capacity of advising 3 different presidents. If you were advising Donald Trump right now, what would you advise him to do?
Well, I talked earlier on a talk show and I said I would advise him to try to not to feed this beast that's out there by responding to what it says and what it's doing to him and trying to bring it down. But the radio talk show host responded to me, doesn't he have to do that to keep his base rallied behind him and really in fighting fit and willing to stand by him?
Right, because I'd have to say on behalf of my audience feels the same way, that the fighting back and the pushing back. In fact, I think right now the criticism he's getting is there's a little bit too much of a subdued atmosphere in the White House. They're on defense too much. He should go even more on offense.
Let me give you an idea that I gave to the earlier talk show host.
Okay.
I agree with you. They've got to go on offense. Here's how I would do it. If I were the president, I would order the Department of Justice to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate criminal leaks from the intelligence agencies that have been used to bring down Flynn, that were used to leak the code word intelligence about what we picked up with ISIS, and all these others. I would get all of the leaks clearly from the intel agency, which are clearly or almost demonstrably felonies.
Right.
So you investigate these, and you have appoint a special prosecutor to head it up, and start arresting these people, putting these people in jail, finding out their media sources. If you can't, the media's got a Fourth Amendment right to print code word intelligence. I don't think it does. But prosecute them, and if they have a protection, at least expose them.
Right.
And fight back against the people that are trying to bring you down in the deep state.
Be kind of shocking to think he wouldn't go that route. Don't you think he is probably consumed with focusing on the leakers?
I think he is, but I don't understand what's the matter with the Republican Party.
Right.
I mean, with Nixon, we didn't control anything. I mean, we were sitting there, in a bunker in a stockade out in the West surrounded by hostiles, but now they've got both houses of the Congress. I thought, for example, Chuck Grassley constantly is asking these sharp questions of these Democratic apparatchiks who also, I'll tell you, Mike, put into that mall, tell them we're not going to do it from here politically, but who unmasked Trump people, and how was it distributed, who leaked it, and is it apparent or probable that this was a surveillance operation against the Trump campaign masquerading as intelligence operations? And why did the President of the United States order that all this unmasked material and names, etc., be distributed to 17 U.S. intelligence agencies,
right,
which means automatic leaking?
You bet.
Was this a criminal conspiracy to cripple the Trump campaign, and if Trump won, to destroy his presidency before it began?
I think it's fair to say these leakers are not off the hook. There's no way. They've got to be looking over their shoulder and realizing that they've got a probably a very angry occupant of the Oval Office who is going to find them out if it takes the rest of his term. It's going to happen.
Justice we should start working on those leaks. I think whoever's responsible, the FBI.
Yep.
Even without the president ordering it.
Absolutely. Listen, Pat Buchanan, all the best with the book. Again, like we said, a lot of buzz about it. Nixon's White House Wars, the battles that made and broke a president and divided America forever. Very, very timely book. And, Pat, it's always great getting your perspective here on the Mike Gallagher Show. All the best, sir.
Always delighted to be with you, Mike.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much.